engineer, a coder, okay, and a person produces the software for you. They're so good of a coder that they've had so many years of building that code for you, the software for you. They are somewhat irreplaceable where you kind of need them. Like, listen, here's what I've done for you. I've developed software for you that's made you $15 million. I think I deserve a raise. I think I need to be at 285. I think I need to be at 140, 120, whatever the position of this person is. You're irreplaceable, right? So somebody may be watching the same pattern. I'm not somebody that went to school to be an engineer. I can't be a coder. That's not me. Great. You may be watching this and saying, well, what other way can I be irreplaceable? Well, if you learn how to make your own money without somebody paying you that money like a job, if you learn how to make your own money independently, if you don't rely on the government to support you, if you don't rely on your parents to support you or anybody to support you, independently make your own money, you're essentially irreplaceable. So the more irreplaceable people that we have that are not leaning and relying on an organization, institution, or the government to take care of their taxes goes lower. There's a lot of things going on today, but my biggest thing would be whoever I am that's listening to this, whatever country you're living in, we're seeing a lot of this stuff taking place all over the world. Number one thing you got to do to be irreplaceable and have a lot of backing when you speak and have a lot of weight is, one, go make your millions, okay? Two, make the investments to be protected financially yourself, your family. You don't have to worry about what somebody else is going to do to you. If you accept a job or career or whatever you're doing it because you're choosing to do it, not because you're forced to do it. You choose to put yourself in that kind of a situation. And if you do that, a government and an institution fears somebody like you because you don't need them. There's always this notion about when there's moms and sons or father and sons, kids, sometimes they go through this challenge because the kids grow up always needing mommy and daddy for money. Always needing mommy and daddy for money, mommy and daddy for money, mommy and daddy for money. Then there's this awkward transition where mommy and daddy can threaten to take stuff away from the kid by saying, if you don't do this, I'm not going to give you an allowance. And eventually the kid says, listen, I make my own money now, $20,000. That threat doesn't work anymore. And parents sometimes is uncomfortable to give up that control. They lose it, right? So the government doesn't like it when you no longer need them. The government doesn't like it when you no longer need their welfare state or their support or any of that because you independently make money. If you don't position yourself in a way to make your own money and be free, you are going to be living a life of conformity and being a hostage. That is not a situation. We were not created to be held hostage by another organization because we desperately need them. We are created. We were created to be creative and solve many different problems. Unfortunately, you cannot do that when you're relying on the government. How do you solve that? By exactly what Robert's talking about, which is sales.
And so when I was a kid, I couldn't listen to my poor dad anymore because I was really horrible in school anyway. And they kept saying, well, if you don't get good grades, you won't get a good job. I said, good, I'm on the right track. And then, so I would play Monopoly with my rich dad, but I had to work for him for free. That was the deal. And he says, if I pay you money, you think like an employee. So I would work for him for free, and he'd play Monopoly and teach me. So as I got older, when I was about 12 years old, he said, okay, your graduate course is this. I had to go to, he had a lot of rental units. He called them rental units. My poor dad, the school teacher, called them slums, And I think you know the formula, Patrick, is the real estate buys the land. So Rich Dad was putting up these military Quonset huts on this really great land. But the Quonset huts, the military were buying the land. So he put these little cheap-ass Quonset huts up there. And my poor dad went nuts. He's taking advantage of all these people. He's a complete Marxist socialist. So when I was about 12, Rich Dad says, okay, we played enough Monopoly. We're going to graduate. So the next graduation course was I had to go knock on doors and collect rent. I tell you, Patrick, I learned more about life knocking on doors and rent. Because everybody who was late in their payments had an excuse. They all had a TV set. I could hear it going in the background. They weren't working. and they didn't pay their rent. It was one of the best educations I ever, they weren't working, and they didn't pay their rent. It was one of the best educations I ever had.
I can only imagine.
Oh my God, at 12 years old.
Wow.
And so that kind of, that also twisted my path because my poor dad had excuses too, if you know what I mean. I heard similar excuses collecting rent from these very, very poor people. And I heard the same excuses at home. And so that's why when Rich Dad said to me, when I came back from the Marine Corps, he said, you better learn how to sell. I didn't want to do it because nobody likes rejection. Everybody hates rejection. But I'll tell you two stories. Is that when I was in Sunday school, I was about 7. And my Sunday school teacher asked me, she said, why were the 3 wise men wise? And I said, well, because they were rich. And she goes, no. Why were the 3 wise men wise? I said, because they were rich. And she kept saying, well, why do you say they were rich? I said, well, they had frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And they came to give it to them. I'm not pushing religion here, but I went to a Christian school, Sunday school. So they had frankincense, gold, and myrrh. And she said, they were rich. She said, no, that's not the answer I'm looking for.
Make the most of your money with high yield cash from Robinhood Gold.
Are you worried about your financial security in these unprecedented times? If you are, the next minute is profoundly impact your financial security. Imagine waking up to find the economy has plunged and your portfolio has plummeted 40 to 45%, while banks are in turmoil, holding your money hostage while waiting for FDIC intervention. Where would you turn? For many, this may sound like fiction, but it's a stark reality. For those that have money on the line, recently, America awoke, both the NASDAQ and the Dow plummeting over 1,100 points each and triggering a frenzy of sell-offs. History shows us how a single event can crash the market. Like the dot-com bubble of 1999, the subprime mortgage crisis of 2008, and the pandemic of 2020. But today, we're facing multiple bubbles: commercial real estate, stock, bonds, and banks. Combined with the relentless inflation, the threat of global recession, the specters of war, and you have the perfect storm. The consequences could be catastrophic, plunging us into unprecedented crisis. America is sliding in the age of discord, with trust in institutions collapsing and the democratic norms unraveling. The quality of life for Americans has declined. Wealth is concentrated among the rich, while the median American family income stagnates, creating a dangerously top-heavy social pyramid. Moreover, hostile countries like Russia, China, and Iran